In 2018, a lone camera wandered an empty mall at midnight. No foot traffic, no music, just the sickly yellow of security lights and escalators frozen like teeth. The video gathered millions of views, strangers, collectively unsettled by the same silence. Why does an empty mall make us feel watched by time itself? It's not ghosts. It's a doorway into how our brains read the world when the world stops performing. Today we'll walk through that doorway. We'll trace liminality from evolutionary instinct to architectural trickery, from digital ghost towns to cinematic language. By the end you'll know why empty spaces feel like memory and menace at once, and how to use that knowledge so those places stop haunting you and begin teaching you. Think of one place that felt wrong when you visited it empty: a school corridor, a closed arcade, a late-night bus terminal. Put it in the comments. That single example will link to nearly everything we cover here: pattern, expectation, and the tiny human errors that turn the familiar into the uncanny. The in-between feeling: walk into a mall at 1 a.m. and the first thing you notice is the absence of expected motion. Bodies, laughter, the soft chorus of commerce. Your brain is a prediction engine. It reads context and fills in what should be there. Liminal spaces are prediction failures, and the emotion you feel is your prediction engine warning you something's off. But that warning is a sophisticated signal, not a simple alarm. It flags a moment when the ordinary scaffolding of meaning has loosened, offering a rare vantage point. Without the usual crowdsourced cues, you see the architecture of experience itself. When routine dissolves, identity loosens too. The person who shops, clocks in, or drops a kid at school is a role anchored to place. Remove the place's active choreography, and you witness the strata that held your roles together. That vertigo, both mildly terrifying and quietly electric, is the in-between feeling. Short line: in-between spaces strip away scripts. Takeaway: next time you feel that vertigo, breathe. Name the role the place usually performs for you. You'll regain agency by witnessing the script fall away. Born between worlds, human brains evolved to care about the presence of others. Faces and motion were daily data for survival. Who's friend? Who's foe? Where's sharing happening? Emptiness flips those statistics. No faces, no motion. The mind interprets the absence as deviation from norm. That's why empty urban infrastructure, a mall, a hotel lobby at dawn, produces not only loneliness but cognitive friction. The discrepancy between expected social data and sensory reality. Yet that friction is not only danger signal. It is creative torque. The same mechanism that made us notice stealthy predators now primes us for noticing nuance. Patterns of light, echoes of sound, traces of past behavior that hide in the architecture. Emptiness is both alarm and invitation. In that gap, creativity finds footholds, because the brain switches from predictive autopilot to active patterning. Short line: emptiness is not nothing, it's a different kind of something. Takeaway: treat empty spaces like laboratories. Observe what your brain tries to fill in. Those habits are keys to fresh perspectives. The evolutionary ghost: picture a Pleistocene plain, a horizon without shelter, a wind that carries unfamiliar scents. Silence there is dangerous. That ancestral calibration: stillness equals potential threat, migrated forward into urban life. Our neural hardware hasn't been fully reprogrammed for strip malls and neon. So when we encounter a modern silence, empty shops, dim food courts, something ancient runs the simulation. Were we abandoned? Will danger appear without a signal? This is why people describe liminal spaces in animal metaphors. It feels like something is stalking us, or I felt hunted by silence. The ghost is not supernatural. It is evolutionary. Our physiology is running a rehearsal of older dangers in contexts that pose no real physical threat. Understanding that clarifies the experience. The fear is biological shorthand for recalibrating attention, not prophecy. Short line: ancient alarms echo in modern silence. Takeaway: reframe the reaction. If your body alerts you, ask, what does the alert want you to notice? Dream logic: in real-life dreams stitch familiar images into odd seams. Your childhood school with the wrong floor plan, a voice that comes from somewhere behind you. Liminal places trigger a similar dream logic in waking life. The mind reads a hallway and supplies narrative. It expects the hum of conversation, the clink of a register. When reality lacks those narrative beats, the mind fills them with dream sounds and dream sense. That's why walking a familiar place at an unfamiliar hour can feel like stepping into your subconscious. Creators have long exploited this crosswalk between dream and reality. Tarkovsky's corridors, Lynch's motel lobbies, and even the yellowed fluorescent rooms of internet horror borrow the aesthetic because these are the exact spaces where waking cognition bends toward metaphor. Short line: when reality lacks rhythm, the subconscious sings. Takeaway: use liminal hours like artists use night. Bring a notebook, let images surface, and trace where memory and perception blur. The mall as memory theater malls are theatrical constructs. Curated facades, circulatory paths, staged social microcosms. They were designed to simulate vibrant public life while keeping commerce centralized and comfortable. When foot traffic ceases, those theatrical elements don't disappear, they ossify. Escalators become silent props. Food courts become empty stages. That theatricalization is why a dead mall hurts more than a decaying warehouse. A mall carries an embedded script of social life. Birthdays, first dates, job interviews. This death feels like the erasure of shared moments. This is not simply nostalgia. It's cultural memory being exposed. The empty mall is a museum of communal expectations, and the echo you hear is not the buildings. It's yours. Short line: malls preserve crowds as memory. Takeaway: when you pass a shuttered mall, reflect on what social functions it performed. Recognize that loss is social, not just commercial. Architects of emotion architecture mediates experience. Colin Ellard and other environmental psychologists show how corridor length, ceiling height, lighting color, even the spacing between benches influence mood and behavior. Buildings whisper narratives. They tell us to move quickly, to slow down, to feel small, to feel awe. Liminal spaces amplify those whispers because the human chorus that usually answers the architecture is gone. Without people, the narrative voice of the building becomes solo, and its tonalities appear more stark. Design choices that were background noise when spaces were bustling become foreground emotion when vacant. That's why some abandoned spaces feel tragically lonely while others feel serene. It depends on what the architecture is designed to say when unopposed. Short line: buildings speak. Silence makes them loud. Takeaway: learn the language of space. It lets you read emotion even when people aren't present. Time without people clocks tick whether anyone listens. A station, a mall, a town square, they all age whether we're present. Liminal spaces make that visible. They are timekeeping without witnesses. Abandoned theaters remain stately. Parking lots become topography of time. Dust stratifies like sedimentary memory. That revelation is uncomfortable because we often anchor our sense of continuity to social ritual. Without shared rhythms, commute times, shop hours, school bells, time feels unraveled, but the discomfort hides liberation. If time persists without witness, then your urgency to control outcomes loosens. You can inhabit change rather than battle it. Recognizing time's indifferent flow is, paradoxically, freeing. It gives you permission to stop controlling every beat and begin listening to the tempo. Short line: time flows with or without an audience. Takeaway: let go of needing constant validation from activity. Be present in the flow instead. Digital liminality: web forums stiffen into archives. Old social profiles become digital husks. These are the internet's liminal places, populated once, abandoned now. Clicking through these pages is an act of archaeology. You read the residues of identity preserved in code. There's an uncanny quality to seeing yesterday's presence trapped in today's interface, like eavesdropping on a conversation frozen mid-sentence. Digital liminality reveals a modern truth. Technology prolongs the ghost of ourselves. Where physical liminal spaces teach us about impermanence, digital ones teach us about persistence, how aspects of us persist beyond intention and often beyond repair. They force questions about digital stewardship. What traces are we leaving, and how will they appear to future archaeologists of the web? Short line: online ghosts mirror offline echoes. Takeaway: curate your digital life. Be mindful of the emotional archaeology you leave behind. If this exploration is opening new windows for you, hit subscribe and ring the bell. We unpack hidden patterns like this every week, from the architecture of feeling to the psychology behind viral myths. If you've got a haunting place in mind, share it below. We'll read the best ones on the channel. The comfort of decay has aesthetics. Photographers drift to ruin sites not only for drama but because decay is an honest record. Peeling paint, cracked tiles, the ghosted outline of an old logo. These are time's signatures. Humans often assume permanence is better, but permanence can be a psychiatric trap. It makes us resist necessary endings. At a deeper level, decay reveals the life cycle of objects and the life cycle of culture. It invites us to accept entropy as an artist accepts patina. There's also restorative potential. Ruins often become fertile sites for new narratives, urban exploration, community reclamation, or even creative reuse. An empty mall can be a canvas for a flea market, a cultural hub, a vertical farm. Decay is not a verdict, it's an offer. Short line, decay tells the truth of time. Takeaway, find the beauty in endings, they often seed beginnings. The sound of absence sound organizes space. A mall's ambient music masks the mechanics. The cloth of chatter softens corners. When those acoustic cues vanish, silence doesn't mean nothing. It means your inner soundstage rises. You hear your own heartbeat as part of the environment. Auditory scientists call this predictive auditory filling. The brain supplies expected noise based on prior experience. When there's mismatch, the result is uncanny. Silence magnifies introspection. Standing in a parking garage, you feel smaller and louder at once. But silence can be harnessed. It's a practice ground for listening, to your breathing, to the minute acoustic signature of a place, to the thoughts you normally drown with noise. Short line, silence amplifies the inner voice. Takeaway, use silence actively. Let it be data, not threat. The backrooms affect the backrooms. Myth, endless yellow rooms, fluorescent dust. Is internet horror's crystallized liminal anxiety. It succeeded because it translates the everyday unease of empty institutional spaces into an eternal, uncanny maze. But the myth conflates normal liminality with inescapable doom. In reality, emptiness is temporary and often meaningful. The true danger is not being in an empty corridor. It's never learning how to be there without panic. Understanding the origins of these myths helps defuse them. They're cautionary tales about overstretched attention and social fragmentation. When public life thins, imaginations fill the void with monstrous metaphors. Recognize the fiction and you defang the fear. Short line, horror is often the mind's parable for disorientation. Takeaway, name the myth. Replace terror with curiosity. The psychological reset psychological research suggests minor disorientation can boost cognitive flexibility. When context cues collapse, the brain stops relying on cache solutions and starts exploring novel patterns. That's the cognitive payoff of liminality, a reset switch. Experiments in environmental novelty show improved creative problem solving after short exposures to unfamiliar settings. The eerie corridor becomes an unlikely gym for mental plasticity. Of course, dose matters. Too much disorientation yields anxiety. A little yields insight. Seek manageable liminal experiences. Walk a different route home. Visit a closed museum during a late-night event, or sit in an empty library. The small rupture of expectation interrupts autopilot and invites fresh thinking. Short line, mild disorientation sharpens creativity. Takeaway, schedule small liminal experiments, they prime new problem pathways. The mirror of routine. I once spent an entire Sunday wandering a vacant shopping mall, doing nothing but watching light shift through glass skylights. Routine evaporated. The self that performs roles, worker, friend, commuter, dissolved into someone quieter and less urgent. Routine is comforting because it scripts identity. Liminal spaces expose the seams. That exposure can be embarrassing. You discover habits you only do because a place asks you to. But it's fertile. You can change a habit by changing the place that cued it. If your mornings are frantic because your apartment triggers a work mode, try shifting ritual location. Drink coffee on the balcony, journal in a nearby park. Place matters for habit. Short line, places script our patterns. Takeaway, recycle your rituals by shifting environment. Cultural liminality cultures have structured liminality for millennia. Rites of passage, pilgrimage thresholds, initiation caves. Anthropologists like Victor Turner studied the betwixt and between as a productive zone for transformation. Rituals supply choreography for liminal stress, guiding individuals through identity dissolution into new roles. In modern secular life, we've outsourced ritual to institutions, workplaces, schools, malls, and when those institutions decline, rituals wither. Recognizing this, you can invent secular rites. Leaving a job might accompany a symbolic walk, a letter-writing ritual, or a shared meal to mark completion. Ritual is simply intentional architecture for transitions. Short line, ritual contains the chaos of change. Takeaway, Create small rites to thread your transitions with meaning. Dreams as liminal maps. Dreams are rehearsal spaces where the mind practices uncertainty. Their narratives are often fragmentary, looping, and liminal by design. Dreams prime you for ambiguity in waking life, so the eerie corridor in a dream is a training ground for real transitions. Keeping a dream log makes you more fluent in liminal symbolism. Patterns emerge. Themes of being lost, spaces closing, doors opening. Those metaphors are direct translations of your waking liminal experiences. Treat dreams as maps, not nonsense. When you notice recurring liminal images, use them as diagnostics. Where is your life between states? What role are you leaving? Short line. Dreams rehearse thresholds. Takeaway. Keep a dream notebook. Use it to decode your transition zones. Liminality in art and cinema. From Buñuel's fevered corridors to Wim Wenders' vacant plazas, cinema has always loved empty space. Why? Because film can literally show the psychological substrate. Lingering empty frames, slow pans, silence. Directors use liminal aesthetics to externalize interior states. That's why film theory treats empty space as character. The body moves through it and the camera listens. Studying these films trains you to perceive the emotional grammar of space. Notice the pacing, the absence of extraneous sound, the way light reveals texture. These are tools you can use both as a creator and a perceptive human. Short line. Empty frames speak louder than many lines. Takeaway. Watch a film for empty space technique. Borrow one device into your life. Reclaiming the in-between liminal mastery is a skill. It begins with two practices: observation and ritual. Observe. Learn what your body does in in-between places, the tightening of jaw, the quickened breath, the searching gaze. That's your data. Ritualize. Design tiny, repeatable actions to anchor you through transitions. A 3-minute breath, a gesture, a phrase. These rituals stabilize you so the liminal space becomes a workspace for meaning rather than a trap. Small experiments produce big change. Start with commuting. Insert a 5-minute midpoint walk that's intentionally unproductive. That little pause shifts your internal narrative and scales to larger transitions. Short line. Small rituals steady big changes. Takeaway. Build micro-rituals into your day to harness liminal power. Finding peace in the pause. If you let liminal spaces do their work, you'll find a paradox. Stillness breeds life. Where culture pressures you to be productive every minute, liminal places whisper a different ethic. Pause, listen, and recompose. The empty mall, the late-night station, the quiet website, they teach you that identity isn't a static thing to defend, but a process you inhabit. Peace is not a destination at the far end of action. It's the capacity to hold yourself between movements, to make the pause generative. When you stop fearing the in-between, you gain access to fresh formation. That's the final lesson of liminality. It's not threat, it's threshold. Short line. Peace lives between movements. Takeaway. Let the pause do the work. You'll find the next right step in the silence. Empty places are not voids to be feared. They are rooms where the self is reshaped. Every quiet corridor is an invitation to notice, to ritualize, and to grow. If this resonated, subscribe. We'll keep exploring the hidden logic behind everyday mysteries. Next time, how forgotten spaces shape identity across generations, and what we inherit from places we never lived in. This video explores psychology, anthropology, and cultural observation for educational and philosophical purposes. It is not professional advice. Consult a qualified expert for personal psychological or medical concerns.